there is an actual black and white switch between the reaction of the body to low-dose radiation and of high-dose radiation. The gold standard, as they call it, of radiation is the Hiroshima data.
Let's play that there Wabash Cannonball. Wes? I wish Wes.
You realize this is a radical theory you're presenting, Jane Goldberg. I mean, people have been so conditioned to think radioactivity is awful and the worst thing, and you're saying, no, it's not bad, it's actually good for you.
It's turned my conceptual world topsy-turvy.
I'm a helicopter mechanic. I'm a medicine man, but I'm a helicopter mechanic. What happened was I found some beautiful stone on the ground. I started making jewelry, figured it was a great thing. It was turquoise, malachite, chrysocolla, and silver. People started wearing this jewelry, and they started getting better with all kinds of things. Mostly pain, some tumors, and at first I thought it was all in their heads, you know. I used to think, you know, they're just thinking they're getting better, right? Well, then I got too many of them. I mean, a whole mess of people saying they're getting better, loads of them.
Over 3,000 medical and scientific studies conducted over the last 100 years in countries all over the globe have proven conclusively that low-dose radiation has a therapeutic effect on living organisms. Exposure to low-dose radiation has been shown to enhance biological responses for immune systems, enzymatic repair, physiological functions, and the removal of cellular damage, including prevention and removal of cancers and other diseases. The following is a report of these research studies and the story of the man who has brought these findings to clinical usage. He has saved countless lives. This application to home use of a century-old medical discovery holds the promise to change health conditions cheaply, quickly, efficiently, and effectively for people worldwide.
Hormesis is a Greek word that means to excite.
This is not only something that we know from epidemiological results, that is looking at what happens to people in masses, but we also have quite a bit of literature on every little step of the process. We've identified which proteins are stimulated and created and so forth in great detail.
And one doctor told me I need to change the name of this from radiation hormesis to something else. If I do that, what happens is you can't research it.
So it was my little white dog, Lily. We woke up one morning, she was sleeping in my daughter's bed, and there was throw up all over the bed. That was the last time she ate for a week. She was like skin and bones by the 7th day. I brought her to 4 different vets. They called in 2 different specialists, including a homeopathic vet. And all the vets were telling me she was dying. My patient said, Donna has 2 dogs, and they're both 20 years old, and she realized that they wanted to have this treatment with the magnetic pulse machine because they kept throwing themselves against the machine every time she would turn it on. And I was there until 2 in the morning. And we gave Lily a magnetic pulse treatment. So she was on my lap when she had the treatment, and then I put her on the floor, and she walked. It was the first time she'd walked in almost a week. And so then Donna said, well, let's give her some hormesis water. So I said, well, okay. So she drank the water, and then Donna started talking to me about radiation hormesis. So Donna gave me some stones, and I brought them home. With the dog, you keep the stone in the dog water bowl all the time. So the next day, I put out 5 different bowls of water. I wanted to test it, and I kept all 5 bowls out. And every time she went over for water, she drank the hormesis water. That's how I know
And
Jay.
I found some green and blue stone on the ground, and I knew a lot about turquoise. It took me actually several years to get permission to go up there and mine it. So I took it to the labs and I had it broken down into elements. You know, that mechanic thing, got to know why it's working. And I found it had thorium in it. Thorium's a radioactive element. So what I did is I took it to Rocky Flats Arsenal in Colorado, had them check it out for me. The guy looks at me and says, "Yes, Jay, it's slightly radioactive." And I got scared. Oh yeah, what have I done to these people? Good grief, I mean, everything we hear about radiation, everybody we're scared, you know. But then I did some more research on it and I started uncovering things in good time that, no, I was doing the right thing. We have quite a history on this.
I used to think they were just ignorant then.
No, they were smart. Look, this goes back to Egyptian times, Roman times.
You could go all the way back to the proto-scientist Paracelsus, 1514. He made the statement that nothing is poison, but the dose makes it so. And people have been doing this since, well, as far as the historic record, and we have some details back to Julius Caesar's day, but it's a primitive thing, you know, that goes all the way back into prehistory.
Then we had Nagasaki and Hiroshima. People got scared, became radiophobic. A lot of history behind that. In fact, going back in history, if you look back in Europe, they've been practicing, they have radon spas that have been around for centuries.
One paper I'm thinking of was 1911, so that's 11 plus 5, 16 years after the discovery of the radiation. They knew at that time that the X-rays were not strong enough to be killing germs, and it must be because it's stimulating the immune system. That's back in 1911, so, and nobody's arguing.
They practice this in Japan. We're like the only country that's really not doing it, which I don't understand, because it's all proven.
We're talking all the time here about penetrating radiation, X-rays, gamma rays, and light. And you hear about some kinds of radiation that are stopped by a piece of paper or something like that. That's what you get from plutonium, for instance. If you handle plutonium with a small glove, or even if you just handle it in your bare hands, the only damage you're going to get is on your skin. Every time you go in the sunshine, you're destroying tissue like mad. And if
The whole world is radioactive.
Yeah.
The whole Earth is radioactive, and everything in the Earth is radioactive.
That's right. There's no place in the universe you can go to get away from it. You know, when Helen Caldicott is talking about a radiation zone, it's not in this universe.
I mean, let's go back history just for a couple stories. When they set off the Trinity A-bomb, okay, there was a herd of cattle nearby. You figure they're 7, 8, 9 years old. They got a fairly good dose of radiation, and nobody would touch them. They were scared of them, right? So nobody messed with these cattle. 18 years later, they started slowly euthanizing these cattle because they just weren't dying. Okay, they just weren't dying. They set off the bomb at Bikini Beach. Our government here in the United States decided to do a report on the Japanese fishermen that got doses of radiation when they set off the bomb at Bikini Beach 20 years later. All right? And it's called the Beer Report, the biological effects of irradiation by our government. They wanted to know how many of these Japanese fishermen were dying of cancer. Right there in it says, but as of this date, nobody has died. If you have radon in your house, you have a 60%, which is a big percentage medically, 60% less chance of getting lung cancer.
Radon's not bad for you?
They just had a survey came out, a good study came out. People who have radon in their houses have this is a big number medically, 60% less chance of getting lung cancer. 60% less.
I have radon in my basement.
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, I had it tested.
That
Really? No wonder you're looking so good.
So I used to be worried because I had my basement tested for radon and it was unacceptable level. Now I find out I should be opening a spa down here once we get all this stuff out of here and then
It really feels nice here, Molly, you know?
Yeah, it does.
They're basically different parallel tracks of this radioactive phenomenon. So there's the nuclear bomb, and then there's the nuclear energy, and then there's the radon.
And radon is only one of the natural background radiations that you could get.
Right.
Because there also did some excellent studies about just the natural background from the rocks and so forth. And if you see a map of the world or map of America with the radon levels, and then you see or the radiation levels in general from the rocks and the food and everything, and you see this, the same map with the cancer data, and you see they have exactly the same patterns. You know, the higher the radiation, the lower the cancer. Radiation is not a substance that you can hold in your hand. Radiation is an energy form. It's in the same family, really, as light. And so when I shine a bright light on you, it doesn't leave any deposit in your body. There's no substance in there to be dealt with. But so what happens is if you irradiate somebody, that radiation can damage the body if it's too high, and if it's left on too long, and if it's too sharply focused, and so forth. But it's not that radiation is left in the body in some form. It's just
So
the
when they
effects
say
of
you've
it.
had your life's limit of radiation in terms of cancer therapy, they don't really mean that your body is going to light up a room when you walk in.
No.
They mean that we have already created enough damage that through the damage of the X-ray that we can no longer afford to damage any more of your cells.
That's what is meant by that statement. I don't think that phenomenon is correct. Effects the body gets from normal radiation background, from cosmic rays, from the radiation in the earth and the food you eat and everything else, gets a tremendous amount of damage every day, much more than any radiation treatment that you'll get. And it keeps healing. It keeps healing. And so you have tens of thousands more energy damage in your cells from the normal process of metabolizing your food. You eat, and in the processing, it does a lot of damage, and it's healed. But just that's part of the process continually. If you see a pine tree with a bunch of pine needles under it, which you always will, that doesn't mean it's dying. That's the normal process of cells getting sloughed off and fresh cells coming in. And this whole idea that the body is all pristine and perfect and sitting there, and then somebody comes along with radiation and, oh, you damaged this perfectly good organism. The amount of radiation damage that is done is trivial compared to what you get from your normal processing your food.
The research on this, and there's books on it, and I've got antiques on it. This is all proven straight out. Do the research. I have people do the research on it. But I'm going to explain to you how they say it's working, and then how I found out what's really going on. Okay? Here's what happens. They say when the low-dose radiation goes through your body, okay, it's going through and it's slightly damaging your cells and DNA. That you're activating and you're stimulating your immune system. Okay, in other words, we're getting things going. And so I thought, for years, all the success I was having with cancer was that, and I like to pick on cancer. I like fighting cancer. Cancer's a good one. The other ones are getting to be more of a challenge. So I figured that with what they're saying is by activating and stimulating your immune system, your own body's fighting off the cancer. And that all makes sense. And actually, they're partially true. I mean, that's helping. Of course it is. Well, what happened was several years ago, I had a woman. I get a phone call. There's these ladies in a room, and they're all crying. I thought, oh, what have I done now? You know? And so what happened was this lady was going into a grand mal seizure. One lady's taking care of her, grabbed one of those stones that she got as a gift, put it on, for some reason, put it on the back of her neck, and it stopped it like that. Mm. So they called me up, and they figured they'd just seen a miracle, and they were just like, they were all crying. This woman had been bedridden for 17 years with aspergillus. She couldn't move her hands. She was on oxygen 24 hours a day. She was on morphine, wouldn't even take away the pain. She was in a wheelchair. They had to feed her. She went into her doctor for a physical. They pushed her in there, and he said, I'm sorry, but this is as good as it gets. A month later, after they called me, told us, I sent her some more stuff to work with, started working with her. A month later, her doctor walked into his office to give her a physical. She was standing there with her hand out and says, "Hi doc, how you doing?" He'd been her doctor for 20 years, right? Well, she didn't get her physical, okay? But in fact, I treat the doctor and his wife now, okay? She had aspergillus, okay? Fungus, straight out fungus. That's what it is. She had a list of other problems, COPD and several others, but her main problem was aspergillus fungus. So then right after that, then I get a woman doctor in Pennsylvania. She has a Mennonite woman there. She's got breast cancer. It's the size of your palm, twice as thick. They sent her home to die. She's not going to take any chemo or radiation because of her faith. Doctor tells me, he says, "Jay, it's seeping and it smells really bad." Okay, smells really bad. Well, if you can smell it, it's fungus, okay? I mean, they have dogs now you can see on TV where they can smell cancer, okay? If you can smell it, it's a fungus. She wanted to use an escharotic on it. An escharotic, I don't know if any of you have ever heard black salve. It's blood root and zinc chloride. Very painful, pulls out stuff, and it's not really that successful, okay? It leaves a lot of scarring.
Big gaping holes.
You bet, nasty stuff.
Yeah.
And she kind of wanted to use it on this lady, but she said that she was in such a fragile state of mind that she couldn't bear that kind of pain. Well, I saw what just happened to the woman with the aspergillus, okay? So what happens then is I says, well, no, let's do this. Let's send her a hot stone, meaning putting out high radiation. Not enough to ever hurt her, but enough to get a response. I sent her a hot stone, they put it on the tumor. In 24 hours, it stopped seeping, was healing over. And the smell was about gone. In 2 weeks, the tumor was gone. Cancer is a fungus. There's books about it and stuff, but I mean, I've seen it myself. Remember how I said how the radiation comes in and it slightly damages your cells and DNA, okay? And what it does is they duplicate and repair themselves. It's actually doing the exact same thing to the cells of the fungus. But they can't repair themselves as fast like the human cell can. They die. This right here is, this is a high-grade ore.
Yeah.
We'll max that out.
You don't want to use that. That's too much for them.
Right, because constantly you do it, it's going to go ahead and do more damage than it's going to do good, okay? This fungus is in your body, it's eating dead tissue, okay? Like with you, we're eating dead tissue, and it's excreting or going to the bathroom mycotoxins, which is poison, okay? The poison, the mycotoxin, is what cancer is, okay? It's poisoning healthy cells. That's how it's growing, because actually when it's killing healthy cells, guess what? It's making more food for itself. It's going to drop more poisons than normal. It only lasts for a few days. After that, most everybody's experiencing good sleep, more energy during the day. I love this one. For women from 33 all the way up into the late 80s, a lot of times they'll skyrocket their libido. I say that because if they call me up, they usually think something's going wrong with them, knowing it's normal, it's okay. I get a lot of those calls.
There's certainly a lot of suggestive evidence that something is going on. So the real question is, what is going on? Why is it that people who have low levels of radiation seem to have unexpectedly high survival rates and low levels of cancer? The research that I did years ago had to do with how this huge length of DNA that you have, which is many feet long, is packed into a small cell, so small you need a microscope to see it. So we all know that the DNA is a helix, but then it's coiled into a supercoil, and then that's all coiled around proteins and put together so that it'll fit inside a cell. When a piece of DNA is going to be expressed so that it controls what it is you do in your body, that little bit of DNA escapes from the protein that's binding it and coiling it up and it becomes free. So gene expression is involved in the packaging of the DNA. In the same way, if the DNA is damaged by radiation, it needs to escape from the packaging in order for it to be repaired. One possible explanation of radiation hormesis is that normal background levels of radiation and even the heat of your body cause DNA damage, which can lead to cancer. If, however, you have just a small level of radiation, not enough to really damage the DNA, but enough to set off the DNA repair mechanisms, then what it does is it starts the automatic sequence of events that releases the DNA from its protein cage, examines it, repairs it, and then puts it back in the protein cage.
Remember I said the radiation goes through your body, it slightly damages the cells of the fungus, okay? So it dies all the time. If you stop, guess what? The fungus has a chance to repair itself. Then we start all over again. You can't go into mines that like were built like in the later 60s, even 70s, or even to present day.
Uranium mines, these are.
Uranium mines, because what happens is they use chemicals now to bring out the uranium, and we can't use that. So what I have to do is I have to go back to places and do mining in places that were done like in the 1940s.
So you got to look at it and figure what's the best places to cut on it. The darker stuff usually holds together a lot better. You got a lot of silver in it right in here. We got to take this rock, and we want the rock as smooth as possible, because you put it against your body, you put it against your skin, you keep it there for as long as you can generally. And if it's not smooth, you know, you're not going to want to keep it against your body. All right, so after we've cut off all the rough edges on, hit it with the grinder, grind off all those rough edges just to get the rock as smooth as possible. All right, now after we've ground it all out and rounded it all off as smooth as we can, you know, you want it nice and comfortable so that you can put it wherever you need to and it's not going to dig into you or scratch or anything like that. Now we use it to polish the rock. It doesn't actually have any polishing compound on it. If we were to put polish on it and use actual polishing compound, it basically coats the rock with the polish and it'll mask all the rock's properties.
Silver in it. And silver, as we know, is a natural antibiotic. It makes this stone unique and really pretty stupendous, is that as well as having, it's a lower radiation than all the other stones that Jay mines, but it has an electrical charge, and if you heat it, the charge gets even stronger. And we, as we are radioactive beings, life comes out of radioactivity. We are also electrical beings.
Puts out electricity I can measure with a standard multimeter. Puts out between 260 and 380 millivolts. So it's putting out electricity, DC current, just like your body. Also putting out radiation, and it's drawing things out of people, okay? I've seen this absorb stuff out of people that just blows my mind. I can put a group of scientists in a room for a year with this stone. It's my insurance policy, it's my hero. For most people who have cancer or these other diseases, it becomes their best friend. You don't drop it on a hard floor, it'll break. It's a semi-precious gemstone, very rare.
Ruth's point was that the recoverability has to do with the resiliency of the body, not the advancement of the disease. So if there's resiliency, if the immune system is capable of being activated, then it will be.
Sure.
And spirit. I mean, you're
Oh, exactly. Here's
underlying. I mean, some of the most.
I get someone calls me up and they say, hey, I got 2 weeks to live. I get a lot of those, by the way. You know what I tell them? I said, well, that's great, we'll get on it, but guess what? This isn't all about you. And they're like, what? Because there's people feeling sorry for them, right? No, this ain't all about do that. That's what we did. We just gave them purpose.
Oh, you're a Cherokee.
Yep.
Very good.
I like to show that off. Not a whole
Yeah,
lot
you
of
should be
folks.
proud of that.
My dad was on the Dallas Commission roll. He was born in 1906, and I closed that roll in 1907.
Wow.
I had been to probably one of the best vitreoretinal specialists for my eyes that the country has. My eyesight was going away started about 12, 15 years ago, and he told me, this is it, you're going to have to learn to live with it. I quit driving a car, and Representative Wes McKinley, he would lead me all over the Capitol building and all over Denver, and I couldn't see. I heard about Jay, and I called him. He said, I think I can help you. I got what he calls the kit, you know, with the mud pack and the water stone and the green stone. Within about 3 days, I began to feel better. And then in about 5 weeks, I began to notice that I could see better. After about 2.5 months, I guess it was, I drove my pickup over to Wes's and back to home, which is a total of about 130, 40 miles. You know, your eyes are slow to heal, but they are still getting better all the time. When I was 20 years old, a horse fell on this leg here. Various times I could barely walk on it. Since I've started using these stones, that pain has completely gone away.
You're not just doing your eyes, you're doing, on a systemic level, your body is absorbing
That's right.
the low-level radiation. Taking the water, you have the pendant.
That's right. Yes. When I was going to college, I was one that thought, boy, no bull can ever buck me off, so I rode the bulls, you know, when I was young and brave. Well, what happened is one bucked me off, and I hurt.
You got a scar there?
Oh, wow, yeah.
You had surgery?
Now, the part of my disc between the vertebrae chipped off and went down and it was aggravating the sciatic nerve. 80 or 90, 100-pound bales of hay, my back would hurt.
I bet.
The other day, we got 2 pallets of firewood for our fireplace, and I could tell my back wanted to hurt, but it didn't. Before then, I would have been down for 2 weeks. But the thing I'm trying to say is this. I know, for me, that takes away pain. I know that it's helping my eyes, and I could tell you other people that I know of that have started this since me that have gotten rid of their pain. I know a lady.
And you're gonna live 20 years longer.
When I get back to about 30 or 35 years old, I'm going to quit this.
Yeah.
Since I met you on September the 15th, and I showed you this wound that I've had on my belly for 20 years, open at times, always with a scab on it, and I would, you know, rub it and it would start oozing. Nothing worked. And I said, well, one day if I find something that cures this, I'm really going to pay attention. And you gave me the green stone and said, wear it as much as you can. And I wore it for 24 hours. You said, call me in a month if it hasn't improved. Well, at the end of 3 weeks, it's gone. I've got...
The first 2 days, I didn't really follow the directions, and I wore it for 2 days straight, drinking the water. I was drinking like 5 or 6 glasses of water. You're only supposed to drink 1 or 2 a day. My immune system, I think, crashed, and I got a little sick. And after about 4 or 5 days, 6 or 7 days, increased energy started happening. I started sleeping a lot better. All the achiness and all that kind of stuff went away. I've always had really bad teeth and gums, really bad gums. And my gums started bleeding a little bit more when I was brushing my teeth and stuff. And my breath was actually like, it was like it felt like something was coming out. It was just kind of tasted worse. And then after about 3 weeks, my teeth were much better and my gums stopped bleeding. And then I went to the dentist because I was going on vacation to Santa Barbara to visit my sister. And I had been to the dentist about 3 or 4 months earlier, and he had done a cold test on my whole lower jaw. And I didn't have any feeling in 2 of my teeth. And then after wearing the rocks for about 3 or 4 weeks, I went to the